What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today to kind of take a little look back at the old SGC Topps special. For those that may have forgotten, about 7 or 8 weeks ago, SGC rolled out a special where you could grade 2023 Topps Series 1 for $9 a card. That has come to an end as March came to a close about 10 days ago. But now that we're at the end of it, I was curious as to how much volume this actually increased for them in regards to previous years of Topps, how this stuff is kind of selling on the open market, because there are some PSA things out there, but there's still not a lot just because of PSA's slower nature. One of the side benefits of SGC is they are extremely fast on turnaround times. So what that means is we get data a lot faster. How much are they grading? Because stuff hits their pop report in just a couple of days. How much are cards selling for in their slabs compared to other grading companies since they're kind of first to market? How does that adapt over time before some of the PSA stuff even hits? We'll kind of see that too in a couple of charts and graphs that I pulled up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you use this service, let me know in the comments down below. How did it work out for you? Just kind of curious for personal feedback. As always, SGC usually has very, very good customer service. Resale value, decent, nowhere near PSA's level, or at least in most cases, but overall pretty good company. Peter's been doing some pretty cool things down there with promotions and things like that. And this is not the first time that they have teamed up with Topps. There definitely seems to be a lot of collaborations going back and forth between SGC/Topps/ Fanatics. So let's go ahead and just kind of look at some stuff. I pulled up on the old gem rate machine. For those that don't know, I always like to remind people of this. Gem rate, awesome Instagram follow, awesome person. But the website itself is also fantastic for digging into random stuff like this. So what I have pulled up here is PSA's numbers so far for 2023 Topps. They have graded 3,200 cards. With a 64% gem rate. Very high gem rate so far. Now, the thing to keep in mind is PSA does grade slower than SGC. Also, a lot of stuff from Series 1, if you're submitting paper base or even some rainbow foils and some lower end inserts and that sort of stuff, is going to hit slower because their bulk turnaround times are anywhere from 30 to 90 days, just kind of depending. So, this is not what this population report is going to end up looking like in the long run, but I thought it was at least a good marker point for what this looks like compared to SGC at this point. So they have graded 3,200 total cards. SGC, and this is, we joked last month, or I kind of joked around that SGC had a big baseball increase for March's numbers. A lot of that was generated by this special, as you will see here. SGC has graded 40,000 cards already from 2023 Series 1. That is a lot of $9 specials going through the door. Now, not all those were in March. There was about a third of those or a fourth of those that were in February, but a large chunk of that number came out of March. So that really juiced SGC's numbers last month. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a pullback in the SGC graded numbers this month, just based on the fact that this special ended. Now, there's a little bit of lag time. We'll talk about it in a minute, where they're still putting up pretty good numbers from Series 1, but I'm guessing it was people getting last minute orders in at the end of March, since we're still pretty early in April here. But 40,000 already. I was curious, so I went back and looked at 2022. 2022 Topps, they graded 7,000. Now, 2022 Series 1 was not as loaded of a product. Remember, this didn't have the full rookie class in it. That's why Topps Update was so good. So I assume that is playing a factor here. 2023 Series 1 actually has a lot of players in it that are trendy names anyways that you wouldn't mind slabbing up to potentially flip. So I do want to put a little bit of an asterisk next to that, but that is still an astronomical difference from 2023 to 2022. The other thing I pulled up here, and this is always a fun chart, weekly growth rates. And as I was saying, you can see in February, they did have some on the pop report. There's 1,500. Going into early March, they had 7,000. And then it was basically jumping almost 7,000 a week, pretty much dead on 7 to 8,000 a week. And then we kind of moved into April here. At the end of March, it was at about 30, let's call it low 30,000s. And at the beginning of the March, let's call it maybe about 5,000. So they probably did close to 25,000 Series 1 just in the month of March, to just to ballpark that. And now we'll see how it slows down here. So from here, from April 3rd to April 10th, it went up about 5,500. So you could see that pace slowing down from some of these weeks were 7,000 or 8,000 a week. Next week's will be very telling when we get to the 17th to see what that number looks like. Like I said, we're probably still catching some of that backlog from people probably dumping in orders at the very end of the month. That's kind of chewing up this. So they were submitted in March. They don't hit the pop report for April. So even though SGC is fast, there is still always a little bit of lag time there. But long story short, the special, they really knocked it out of the park with that one. People were submitting in mass to them to get those cards graded at that $9 fee. People were 100% taking advantage of that. Now, let's look at some resale value stuff. Let's pop over to this one. I am mostly, I pulled a few exceptions out here, but I'm mostly focused in on base cards. And I know base cards, who's grading Topps Series 1? There's a billion of them. Oh my goodness, this, that, the other thing. And I get that. But at $9 a card, base is gradable whether you like it or not. You can grade base cards at $9 a card and potentially turn some profit. That's what I was curious about. How do these prices hold up? And now that we've kind of waited, I've talked about wanting to do this weeks ago, but I kept waiting because I wanted to get a little bit more sales data out there and kind of see how things flush out the system. So here's Adley Rutschman, arguably the top prospect / rookie, whatever you want to call him, in the product. SGC 10 right out of the gate sold for $60 back in late February. And then as always, as things hit the pop report, more supply becomes available, prices come down. You could see it very quickly came down. Went to $50, then to $40, then to $25, and it's kind of been floating at around $20 ever since things have kind of flushed itself out. So $20 for an Adley Rutschman base, $9 to submit it. Now, if you're sending it in with a bunch of other cards, it helps cut down on the shipping, or maybe you're sending it through a group submitter where you're dropping off at. Everyone's going to be doing things a little bit different. Are you making a killing on this? No. Are you getting murdered if you get a 9 or a 9.5? Yes. So if you have a pretty good idea, that is, and you could pull a 10, you could eke out a very small profit grading base. Personally, for me, I would not recommend it. To compare it, PSA, we have seen some PSAs hit the market now. A PSA 10 is doing about $65. That's rounding down ever so slightly. And you can see when those first came out of the gates, they were at $80, $75, $70. They dipped down a little bit and then went up because he started the season kind of hot. They kind of popped back up again, but it got down to $45 is where it bottomed out at. Now, with PSA, you're looking at, I believe it's $19 to grade is their cheapest level at the moment. So here, if you hit a PSA 10, you can actually turn a decent amount of profit. Now, whether or not that number holds, there is going to be a ton of these on the population report by the time this all kind of flushes itself out. But that's your price difference that you're looking at there. $70 for a PSA 10, $20 for an SGC 10, and there's actually already 350 Rutschmans on the PSA population report. Let's just take a look at a couple others. You're going to kind of see a very similar thing play itself out. So once again, being first to market on this stuff is absolutely key. Gunnar Henderson, very similar thing. Right out of the gate, $56. It has now settled in at about $15 a card. PSA 10 out of the gate at $72 a card. Currently sitting at about $50, slightly trending down. Next up, Michael Harris. SGC 10 started off at about $50, currently at about $16. PSA 10 started off at about $50, currently at about $40. So once again, similar trend, started out high, slightly coming down again. Here is a rainbow foil. There was not, I wish I had more of these, so maybe this will be something we'll revisit in another month or so. I couldn't find a lot of like actual, I don't want to say valuable cards and degrade the base, but like rainbow foils or numbered cards that matched up grade to grade. There wasn't a lot that I could find. This was one of the ones that I could find, was a Michael Harris rainbow foil. PSA 10 to SGC 10. PSA 10 doing about $72. SGC 10 doing about $50. Now you do see the PSA 10, the first couple came out of the gates hot. This one did 200, this one did 170, then 165, and then this one fell off the floor down to $72. Meanwhile, the SGC 10 has been fairly consistent all the way across. It started at $72. It dipped down to a low of about $42 and currently sits at $56. So definitely still a little bit of a price gap there. So long and the short of it, the special worked out great for SGC. A lot of cards went through the door, and not all of them were base cards. Like I said, I just kind of used that because a lot of people I think are going to gravitate towards that at $9 a card. Now that offer has obviously ended, but do be careful submitting those base cards through SGC going forward from a value proposition. Obviously, if you want to grade it because you want to grade it for PC or whatever, do whatever you want to do. But if you're doing it trying to flip it, the price has kind of already been gutted per se on that, with time factoring in. You know, at the very beginning, even at $19 a card, maybe you could have got away with it, but that would have been extremely risky unless you were one of the very first few ones to market. Really, the $9 per card thing kind of made this thing clutch. That being said, people that submitted at least base cards anyways late into this submission process are probably going to get burned getting those back. Now, parallels, colors, that sort of thing are still doing pretty okay. If we come over to here, here's the base cards sorted in order for SGC. Once again, $22 is where things top out at with Adley. If I remove the base from the variation and then just do a search and pull up everything, you can see some of the numbered stuff and things like that are selling pretty well. We don't have a lot to compare it to, so I can't compare it to what it would be going for in a PSA 10 in a lot of these cases, but like a Gunnar Henderson vintage stock 99 went for $400 in an SGC 10. Tristan Casas went for $276. A Michael Harris advanced stats went for $275. A Rushman advanced stats out of 300 went for $215. What else do we have on here? Just kind of scrolling through. A Rushman rainbow foil in an SGC 10 did $150. Michael Harris green foil board did $100. So you can see there's some strong sales in the numbered stuff that would make 100% to send in for grading. Now, would you have made more sending to PSA? Probably. But getting it on the market faster and getting the money back quicker in your pocket is 100% a play. That is something we've talked about time and time again. Obviously, with the base card stuff, you're kind of playing with fire there. Can you squeak out a margin on it? Yes. Is it a little bit tough? Do you got to time things correctly? Yes. Can you get burned very easily? Yes. If you're trying to flip it. I had pretty good luck doing it with PSA when they had the reduced grading fees at $15 a card. If you're going to grade base stuff, I think that's the way to go about it. I had good luck with those Julios and some of that other stuff that I sent in from like Topps Holiday and Topps Update and all that back in the winter. All those cards sold extremely quickly, but I wasn't making like a killing on them. You know, I had like $20 into the card and I was selling it for 30 or 35, either through eBay or cash. I was profiting maybe 10, 15 bucks per card, depending on what it was. Some more, but that's where most of the stuff kind of fell in. But profit's profit. And especially if you're just starting out, it is a decent way to grind out through the grading process. So, like I said, long story short, SGC from a numbers perspective, crushed it. What makes sense to send in, that's going to come down to each individual submitter and what type of cards you're sending in and what your outlook for those cards are. You cannot deny that the SGC special got cards into the door, which was what their goal was. We'll see what the gem rate numbers look like as we move throughout April, if they do see a little bit of a retracement with the special ending, and then also how prices continue to flush itself out. Once again, you know, I'd like to see more rainbow foil comparisons and numbered card comparisons like golds and that sort of stuff in PSA 10 to SGC 10. But we're just not there yet. We're still a little too soon in the population report. Base cards we could do because there's tons of those coming back and hitting. So all I got for you boys and girls today. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.